What we want to talk about this morning is how different these holidays have been. I mean, some people were lucky enough to be able to be with friends and family. A lot of people, though, myself included, being in my pod of one, having to interface with my friends and family only over Zoom and over the phone. And that was weird and kind of stressful and kind of lonely. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, this is very difficult times for people. I do encourage people to remember this will change. This is not the first pandemic that humankind has been through. And I've been thinking a lot about how other people have gotten through prolonged suffering. And I was taking a look again at the works of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who spent some time in a concentration camp during World War II. And he wrote a book about man's search for meaning. And I was thinking about how that would be really useful for us to recognize that there are ways we can create meaning even through suffering. So maybe I can mention the three things that Dr. Frankl wrote about.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so he wrote about there are three ways we can find meaning through suffering. One is by what we do. We can be creative, we can take action, we can get involved. And that's healthier than being passive. And I know people are trying to do that, but I'm kind of doing this as a kind of a reminder and an encouragement. A second thing we can do to create meaning through suffering is look at what we encounter. So we can encounter people on a deeper level, get beyond the surface. And I think people are open to that. There's more vulnerability right now. To get below the superficial things that sometimes keep us from being close to others. And we can also encounter and be reminded of the beauty in the world, the beauty of art, of nature, of poetry, and allow ourselves to be nourished again by the things that are beautiful. But the third thing he wrote about is the attitude we take towards suffering. And it's easy to get angry, to get depressed, and of course, all of us deal with that. But we can also take a courageous attitude towards suffering, to put it in perspective that this is part of the human condition. But things do get better, and sometimes we have to also look to the future. And if you're a person of faith, draw from that there are some good things that come out of suffering. Our priorities get clarified. We become less superficial. And I'm just encouraging people to keep looking forward that good things will come.
You know, you mentioned that it gives us the opportunity to kind of get past the superficial and maybe connect with people on a deeper level. And I just had one experience that really brought that home to me. The other day, I mean, of course, I couldn't see anybody in person much over the holidays, but I did get out. And I went to the drugstore, and I'm talking to the lady behind the counter. And, of course, I mean, I've seen her all the time. I don't know what her name is, but I feel like I know her. And she started relating, stuff from her own life. And, I mean, I had a nice conversation with the lady at the checkout counter that I normally would not have had. And that made me feel good. It made me feel like I connected with another human being on more than a superficial level. And that made me feel good. I mean, so it was a wonderful reminder that even when you feel the most alone, you're not really alone.
That's a good example, Jean. That's exactly what Dr. Frankl would have said.
So as we look forward to the new year, of course, everybody is making their New Year's resolutions. And then usually you make your resolution and then the next year you go, man, I didn't really do that. So is there any way that we can set ourselves up for success and not feel like, big failures by the end of next year?
I do have some suggestions about that. And actually, I have a video on my YouTube channel called Psychological Strategies for Change. And I'm going to give you some of the high points from that video that give people the best chance of success when they're trying to make change. One of the things that's important is to make a realistic goal. Have an objective. Think about the steps you're going to need to take. Have a realistic time frame, and then have a system to check your progress, whether it would be marking it on your calendar or if there's a friend where you both have the same goal. But it's important, make your goal realistic. If we make our goals too big, we'll give up. But a big one, Jean, is watch how you talk to yourself. Some people call that self-talk or internal dialogue. But the things we say to ourselves can sabotage our progress. If we say, I can't, this will never, what's the good of this? When we start undermining our own motivation, that's where a lot of this breaks down. So it's really important to maybe even write down a few positive things you're going to say to yourself. Just focus on that day. What do you need to do that day? And then reward yourself, congratulate yourself. I mean, we can talk nice to a friend who takes a step. We don't say, well, that's stupid, that's not going to do any good. We say, that's great, keep up the good work. We need to do that for ourselves, and we will see more progress. And then it's needed, use a group. There are Facebook groups, there are apps, use another group for the external support to keep going. Most of us needs a little bit of cheering from another person. If you've got a coach or some kind of a sponsor, if you're in a 12-step group, if you can draw from your faith, draw from your external strength as well.